Emma Bennett always knew her life was different from most people's. Since she was little, she faced challenges her peers couldn't even imagine. Her natural shyness made her a quiet and introspective child, preferring the company of books and her loving father, Richard, to the noisy games on the school playground. He was everything to her. A widower since his daughter was a baby, he dedicated his life to raising her with all the love and attention he could offer. As the owner of a small local business, he balanced his time between work and taking care of the girl, always ensuring she had everything she needed, especially his unconditional support. The house they lived in was modest, but cozy. Located in a quiet neighborhood in a small town, it was a refuge for both of them. The walls were decorated with photos of the two at happy moments, birthdays, graduations, trips. Every room told the story of a small family united by love. Emma grew up surrounded by her father's affection and the books she loved so much. Her passion for reading was evident from an early age, and he always encouraged this habit. Her room was a true literary sanctuary, with shelves filled with novels, history books, and fairy tales. Despite her reserved nature, the young woman had a gentle and delicate beauty. Her green eyes, inherited from her mother, shone with an intense curiosity about the world around her. Her brown hair, always tied up in a messy braid, framed a kind and expressive face. Adolescence brought new challenges. While her peers were concerned with dating and parties, she felt increasingly out of place. Her shyness, once merely a characteristic, now seemed like an insurmountable barrier between her and the outside world. Richard, noticing his daughter's silent struggle, did his best to support her, encouraging her to participate in activities she enjoyed and always being available to talk. It was during this time that the young woman discovered her passion for photography. The camera became an extension of her eyes, a way to capture the beauty of the world without needing to interact directly with it. Her father, happy to see her find a form of expression, gifted her a professional camera on her 18th birthday. Emma spent hours exploring the city, photographing landscapes, people, and moments that caught her attention. Life seemed to finally be taking a positive turn. She was about to start photography college, something she had always dreamed of. Her portfolio impressed teachers and colleagues, and for the first time she truly felt confident in her talent and her future. However, fate had other plans. On a sunny summer afternoon when she was 20, she went out to photograph the sunset at a famous viewpoint in the city. The place was known for its stunning views and was one of her favorites for capturing images. She was so focused on adjusting the camera for the perfect light that she didn't notice the car approaching at high speed. The accident happened in a matter of seconds. She was hit and thrown a few meters. The pain was intense, but what scared her most was the darkness that took over her vision. She heard distant voices, sirens, and then felt a hand holding hers. A calm and reassuring male voice said that everything would be okay. She clung to those words as if they were a lifeline in a stormy sea. The days that followed were a blur of exams, medical appointments, and the terrible confirmation she had permanently lost her vision. The impact had caused irreversible damage to her optic nerves. Her world, once full of colours and images, was now plunged into constant darkness. The adaptation to the new reality was painful and challenging. For someone who saw the world through the lens of a camera, learning to navigate it using other senses was almost unbearable. Simple tasks like getting dressed, eating, or walking around the house became daily obstacles. Frustration and sadness often overwhelmed her, and there were days when she could barely get out of bed. Richard, as always, was her pillar of strength. He adapted the house to make it safer and more accessible, hired specialized teachers to teach her to read Braille and use a cane, and above all, never stopped believing that his daughter could overcome that challenge. His words of encouragement and unconditional love were what kept her moving forward on the toughest days. Slowly, Emma began to reconnect with the world. She discovered new ways to appreciate art through music and sculpture. Her fingers, once skilled with the camera, now created beautiful ceramic pieces. She started attending a support group for visually impaired people, where she made friends who understood exactly what she was going through. 3 years had passed since the accident, and she was finally beginning to feel at peace with her new life. Then, fate decided to test her once more. Her father, her safe harbour, was diagnosed with aggressive cancer. The news hit Emma like a punch to the stomach. The idea of losing the only person who had always been by her side was unbearable. The months that followed were a roller coaster of emotions. She dedicated every free moment to caring for him, giving back all the love and care she had always received. The nights were long, filled with whispered conversations and promises of better days. Richard, even amidst pain and treatment, never lost his optimistic spirit. He continued to be his daughter's strength, always with a kind word or a joke to make her smile. Unfortunately, despite all the efforts, he did not resist the illness. He passed away on a calm autumn afternoon, with his daughter holding his hand. His last words were of love and encouragement, asking her never to give up on being happy. The loss left an immense void. The house, once so full of life and love, now seemed cold and silent. Emma felt lost, as if she had lost her compass. The days dragged on, and she struggled to find a purpose, a reason to continue. It was in one of those moments of profound solitude that finally fate smiled upon Emma. A few weeks after Richard's funeral, she found herself alone on a bench in the park, in that quiet corner where she used to photograph birds and watch the people passing by. The fresh air touched her face, and the silence around seemed to envelop her, offering a sense of comfort, even if fleeting. Without her noticing, someone approached and took the seat next to her. He asked if he could sit there and introduced himself as Liam. After a brief silence, the conversation began with simple, almost trivial words, the gentle movement of the park, the wind blowing calmly. Nothing extraordinary, but enough to break the stillness that hung between the two. His voice was soft and welcoming, and something in his tone brought a comforting sense of familiarity. Without realizing it, Emma let out a timid laugh, almost like a reflex, a soft sound that seemed lost in her routine of mourning. The words, so common, seemed to reach something deep within her, bringing silent relief, like a fresh breeze after a long storm. Liam continued the conversation, maintaining the simple tone, unhurried. It was then that she began to feel a strange sense of familiarity in his voice, something she couldn't name, but that seemed to connect them to something much deeper. In the days following the casual encounter, the two began to meet regularly, sometimes on the same park bench, where he would always sit beside her as if fate had brought them there together without hurry. At first, the conversations were about trivial matters, the weather, the activity in the park, nothing requiring more than a smile or a kind word. But gradually, that constant presence began to mean something to Emma. She didn't know exactly what, but there was something comforting in his company. Over time, he became more present in her life, but in a light way, without pressure. Liam started to accompany her in small tasks, helping with things that once seemed simple but had now become a challenge. Discreetly, he would invite her out, with no intention of forcing any kind of connection, just to distract her. A walk in the park, a quick coffee. There was something unique about the way he made her laugh, with funny remarks and light-hearted stories. It was as if, with his presence, the weight of sadness became lighter. Emma, without noticing, began to open up more. She talked about her memories, about photography that made her feel alive, about the fears that held her back from moving forward. The friendship, which had arisen so naturally, began to take new shapes. She found herself eager for the conversations, the small gestures of kindness, and gradually realized that something more was blossoming inside her, something that made her heart beat a little faster. In turn, he was completely enchanted. Liam admired her strength, resilience, and ability to find beauty even in the darkness. To him, she was the bravest person he had ever met, and each day by her side made him fall even more in love. The first kiss happened on a quiet night while they were sitting on the porch swing, listening to the rain fall. It was a magical moment, full of tenderness and silent promises. Emma felt as if her heart would explode with happiness. For the first time since the accident, she felt truly alive and complete. Their relationship grew based on trust, respect, and deep love. They got married in an intimate ceremony surrounded by close friends. Radiant in her white dress, she walked down the aisle guided by his gentle voice. Although she couldn't see, she could feel the love and happiness emanating from everyone around her. The years that followed were pure happiness for the couple. He remained her unconditional support, encouraging her to pursue her dreams and never limit herself because of her condition. On the other hand, she blossomed more and more. She started working at a telemarketing company, which helped her regain her confidence. It was on an ordinary day during lunch that Emma heard on TV about an experimental treatment that could restore vision in cases like hers. The news brought a complex mix of emotions. On one hand, the possibility of seeing again was a long-abandoned dream. On the other, she feared the changes it could bring to her life, which was now so well adjusted. As always, he was her greatest support. He encouraged her to consider the treatment, not because she needed to change, but because it was an opportunity worth exploring. After many conversations and reflections, Emma decided to move forward with the procedure. The months leading up to the surgery were intense. She went through a series of exams and consultations, always with Liam by her side. The anticipation grew each day, mingled with an anxiety she tried to keep under control. He did his best to keep her calm, constantly reminding her that, regardless of the outcome, she would continue to be loved in the same way. Finally, the big day arrived. Emma entered the operating room with a racing heart, but feeling confident. The following hours seemed like an eternity for Liam, who waited anxiously for news. When the doctor finally appeared with a smile on his face, he felt immense relief. The surgery had been a success. The following days were filled with careful recovery. With her eyes bandaged, she followed the medical instructions rigorously. He stayed by her side every moment, caring with love and patience. The anticipation grew until it was finally time to remove the bandages. The doctor entered the room, accompanied by a nurse. Liam held her hand, feeling it tremble slightly. Carefully, he began to remove the bandages. She kept her eyes closed, her heart beating so loudly that she was sure everyone in the room could hear it. "You can open your eyes now, Emma," the doctor said gently. Slowly she complied. At first, everything was blurry and confusing. She blinked several times, trying to focus. Gradually, shapes began to define themselves. She saw the doctor's smiling face, the nurse beside him, and then Liam. When her eyes finally focused on the face in front of her, Emma froze. A wave of recognition hit her with such force that it felt like the air had been knocked out of her lungs. That face. She knew it. Not just from the descriptions she had heard over the years, but from somewhere in her past. Long repressed memories began to emerge. The day of the accident, someone holding her hand, a comforting voice saying everything would be okay. It was him. And there was more. Flashes from her teenage years, her father's voice talking about a special young man who helped him in the company. Again, it was Liam. "Liam," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. I know you. You were there on the day of the accident. And before, you knew my father." Visibly moved, he gently squeezed her hand. He knew this moment would come, and now it was time to reveal the whole truth. "My love," he began, his voice full of emotion. "There is so much I wanted to tell you, but never found the right moment. Your father, Richard, was like a father to me too. I started working for him when I was just a teenager, and we developed a genuine friendship. He always spoke of you with so much pride." Liam paused, gathering courage to continue. "When he became ill, he told me how much he worried about you. He feared you would be alone, especially after losing your sight. That was when he asked me to promise I would take care of you. I promised him that you would never be alone." She listened attentively, silent tears streaming down her face. He continued, "But I need you to know. I fell in love with you from the first moment I saw you, long before the promise I made to your father. On the day of the accident when I held your hand, I felt a connection I had never experienced before. I decided not to tell you anything about our past because I didn't want you to think I was with you just because of the promise. I wanted you to love me for what we have built together, for what we are." Emma remained silent for a moment, processing everything she had just heard. Her heart was full of conflicting emotions, surprise, confusion, but above all, an even deeper love. "Liam," she finally spoke, her voice choked with emotion. "I always felt there was something special about you, something familiar that I couldn't explain. Now I understand why. You not only kept a promise, you chose to love me every day, even when I couldn't see you." Reaching out, she gently touched his face. Her fingers traced every line, every contour, now matching what she always felt with what she could finally see. "I love you," she said, a smile lighting up her face. "I love you not just for what I see now, but for everything you are, for everything we've built together. Thank you for being my light in the darkness and now my light in the clarity." He pulled her into a tight embrace, tears of joy and relief streaming down his face. In that moment, they both felt that a new chapter of their lives was beginning. A chapter full of new discoveries, but based on the deep and true love they had always shared. As they hugged, Emma thought of her father. She could almost feel his smile, knowing his daughter was not only well cared for, but truly loved. Richard had given her the greatest gift of all, a love that transcended sight, a love that illuminated even the darkest days. And so they began their new journey together, ready to face any challenge life might bring. They knew that no matter what happened, they would always have each other, a love built on trust, care, and the daily choice to stay together, in light or in darkness. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.